Welcome to Managing Asia. I'm Christine Tan. This week we bring you the story of a family business, of how a gutsy young leader is working to modernize the vessel chartering company his father started. Today we get on board Singapore-listed Ezra Holdings to talk to Lionel. Showing us one of his newest vessels, 39-year-old Lionel Lee knows all the nuts and bolts about managing ships. Having been immersed in a business since young, his father Lee Kian Su, previously a sailor, owned a vessel chartering company.
Since I was 5, I spent a lot of my time on the ships because when I was younger, my dad would actually take me on the ship and he would actually sit me on the bridge, and the captains and chief engineers would constantly talk to me.
The family business, Ezra Holdings, has come a long way, with Lee now in charge. Running it with a professional team, the company was ranked by Forbes Asia as one of the best firms with revenues under $1 billion. Lee still remembers the day he joined the firm in 1995, how he faced resistance from his mother, and how his father threw him into the deep end.
He said, I think you are ready. I think we should throw you in the deep end of the pool, and if you survive, you will swim to shore, and if you don't, you will sink.
You spent a great deal of your early career repairing the ships. How tough was it learning from the ground up? What valuable experience did that give you?
I spent the first 5 years also in the shipyard, where we were one of the largest subcontractors in Singapore. And it was the school of hard knocks because, number one, we worked 24 hours a day. We had to repair the ship till the ship will complete and the ship will go out on location.
So you got your hands really dirty.
Oh yeah, my coveralls were absolutely black and I had many nights sleeping on board the vessels during the earlier years.
And everything is done like this.
Lee learned the ropes quickly, taking over the helm in 2002 when he was only 29 years old. Stifled by a small domestic market, the hands-on manager knew he had to break into bigger seas and deeper oceans. You realized early on that Deepwater was big business, but as a small company with limited capital back then, did you face a lot of difficulty getting the funding that you needed to go after these big projects?
I remember the first time I was out together with my father back then, talking to the banks and developing relationship with the banks in order to finance our projects. The first project that we were looking to finance, we knocked on probably in excess of 25 banks.
25?
Yes, 25 banks.
It must have been exhausting.
Before we got our first funding. Oh yes, it was a long process.
But you never gave up?
I never gave up, and I think one of the key things we have learned over time is that we have to be extremely persistent in anything you want to do in order to be successful.
And how is funding today?
We have grown, obviously, from a capital base that was extremely small when we started out, and to over $1 billion capital base today of what we have. So obviously the size of the organization has changed over the last 20 years.
So they come knocking on your doors instead now?
No, I think we have a great relationship because our chairman has always had a great relationship with all our bankers, and he has always taught me, since I started out with him, that we need 3 very important people in our business. One which is our banker, next is our lawyers, and of course the last one is our accountants.
In a daring maneuver, Ezra acquired Norway's Echo Marine Contractors, or AMC, for $250 million in 2010, pushing it up the value chain as a manager of subsea exploration and deepwater production projects for oil majors. Though the acquisition attracted many early skeptics, it left others wondering if there was a young tycoon in the making.
We had to move into a project management and engineering background in order to utilize our assets in Deepwater to further also not only provide just assets to our clients, but we want to provide them with a bundled service. So we finally found Echo Marine Contractors, and we felt the fit was perfect because, number one, we were very Asia-Pac centric. They were very well entrenched in the Americas, in the North Sea and West Africa, which we sorely needed. And we decided that the acquisition will fit not only the people but also the assets.
At that time, AMC was not making money. As you carried out the integration process, what were some of the challenges you've had to tackle to turn the company around?
In any integration process, you'll face challenges.
Like
It's how
what?
we face the challenges. Culturally, geographically, and time zones, and the 3 different time zones as well, obviously. So we had to get the management team together from Houston, Singapore, and Oslo. So that had I think that was the most challenging, trying to get the 3 regions together.
Are you completely done with integration now? Is AMC operating profitably now?
We have seen the turnaround, and AMC has turned around. And obviously, with the integration finally complete, we definitely feel that AMC will contribute positively this year to Ezra.
With AMC on board, this has effectively moved you up the value-added chain closer to full-service subsea rivals like Technip, Subsea 7 and Saipem. Are you completely happy with your subsea capabilities? Is there anything you want to improve or add on to?
I've always told our management team, I think the day we fail to evolve ourselves, to continue to improve ourselves in R&D, or to go up to the next level, is the day that we die. So obviously, we did not buy AMC to stop where we are. We will continue to grow in future.
Where would you like to grow in subsea?
We will continue to grow in deepwater pipeline. We will continue to grow in our heavy lift aspirations offshore, as well as the subsea installation and construction market.
You're now the world's 4th largest subsea provider. Any ambitions to become number 1 in this segment?
I remember going back 17 years when I first joined my father at that point in time, and I would go out and look at all the larger vessels, and I would always dream of being number 1 in providing anchor handling tug supply vessels, or PSVs, to our clients. We have obvious intentions not to stay at number 4. We have obvious intentions to move up the value chain, and whether we become number 1, number 2 is immaterial. I think what's important today for me is that I want to continue to win the projects and execute them safely and deliver the project safely to our clients.
How will you get to number 1, number 2? Will you pursue inorganic growth?
We will continue to look at organic growth as well as both on the acquisition mode. I think if the right opportunity comes along, we will definitely look at it.
The AMC deal has given you immediate pre-qualification status with big oil companies like Statoil, Noble Energy and BP. What big projects have you managed to secure so far? What's your subsea order book looking like?
I remember when we did the acquisition about a year ago, all the analysts was really looking at us and saying, what are you doing? You're buying a company without any backlog, and you're paying $250 million for it. What's your plan? I knew deep inside me that we had to have the engineering expertise, and AMC was one of the few companies around the world that had a 40-year history of installing subsea construction projects in excess of 3,000 meters of water. That will enable us to go to the forefront. And I think today, the proof is in the pudding, where we have got a backlog of in excess of $1.1 billion in our subsea construction order book. We will continue to look at projects going forward in West Africa.
What projects are you actively bidding for next?
Oh, we have a bid book today of in excess of $4 billion. The $4 billion of bid book represents all our bidding in Americas, in West Africa, in the North Sea, as well as the Asia Pacific region.
Reaching that $1.1 billion for your subsea order book, that's a huge milestone for you. Have you set a new target for your subsea order book this year?
We plan to double and triple the order book. Hopefully we double the order book by 2013.
So we're talking about $2 billion by 2013.
Right.
Where will this take your overall order book?
Today the group order book is standing at about $2 billion. This is not including our production division. If we include our production division, the order book stands at close to $3 billion, or in excess of $3 billion. I think that's a huge milestone for the group, because we have never seen that huge a order book in the last 20 years. And I think going forward, obviously, we plan to not only increase our order book in subsea construction division, but also our marine division, as well as our fabrication division. And of course, going forward, we're looking to expand our West African presence, and I think that will give us a huge boost in terms of our order book going forward.
Analysts are concerned that some of these orders that you're getting might be done at the expense of margins. Are you getting better pricing and margins in some of these contracts that you've secured?
What we have done, I think, is we've transformed ourselves into a project management and engineering company that have assets, that we utilize our own assets. And I think by having our own assets, we are able to improve our margins. What happened in the old AMC structure before was they had a regime where they chartered in the assets, and that's why they were not able to improve their margins. I think today, with our assets and with our own engineering expertise, we are able to not only improve our margins but also improve our utilization in our assets.
When you say improve your margins, what sort of margins would you be happy with today?
We have been at about between the 10 to 15% margin range, and I think we will continue to look at the same margins that we have been achieving in the last year or so.
Don't go away. More with Lionel of Singapore-listed Ezra Holdings in just a moment. Managing Asia, we'll be right back. You're watching Managing Asia. My guest today is Lionel, the man at the helm of Ezra Holdings, who's charting a new course for the family business by going global. Not your typical anchor handlers, these high-tech, high-powered vessels cost over $100 million, which Singapore-listed Ezra thinks will steer it straight into global waters. So what can they do? We're on board one of your Deepwater construction vessels. Exactly how advanced is this ship?
This ship is built to construct and install pipelines, manifolds, plats, plams in excess of 3,500 meters of water. The ROV that you see right here will be
ROV
able to,
meaning the robot.
They are called remote operated vehicles, ROV, which means this robot will be able to swim in excess of 3,000 meters of water and be able to install oil and gas equipment in that water depth.
Is it currently contracted out at the moment?
The Lionel Falcon is currently contracted and it's on the way to Israel, where she will perform inspection, maintenance and repair work.
Who's the client?
The client is Noble Energy.
The group today operates a total of 50 vessels and is said to have one of the youngest fleets around. Not known to a lot of people, your vessels were deployed to help out in the recovery of the Macondo oil spill. How challenging was that job?
We were one of the first few vessels into the field when Macondo happened, and we did not help in the capping of the well, but what we did provide was the ROVs as the main cameras or the eyes to BP when the incident happened.
What was it like watching the crisis unfold around you with the oil spill?
Well, I think none of us wish for Macondo to happen, and something that Macondo has taught us is that we should always be at the forefront of safety as well as in terms of risk management. So these are things that we have learned from the incident. We have learned that there are certain health, safety, environment issues that we need to look at constantly and never to cut back or think that we can manage an incident like Macondo.
As a result of Macondo oil spill, oil companies are now pushing for contractors like Ezra to take on more risks. How do you calculate whether the risks are worth taking? Under what terms?
Constantly, we in our contract negotiations with our clients, we have a knock-on effect, and we obviously have to protect ourselves in terms of risk that we take on the well, because we basically have no control on the well.
How do you protect yourself?
We take very strong measures in our contracts where we are only responsible for what we do.
How do you protect yourself in the event of an accident?
We have a analysis on what the steps we'll take from the time that...
So you have a contingency plan in place?
You have a contingency plan in place from the time the incident happens to the time that we actually finally solve the issues offshore. But every incident will be different, and we will never actually ever know what the contingency steps are till we reach the incident. And we always plan that the incident will never happen.
Whether it's subsea construction, offshore support vessels, drilling or engineering services, you've managed to secure big projects in the Gulf of Mexico, North Sea, West Africa, South America. What about closer home here in Asia, where Deepwater is little developed? Is this region going to be the next hotbed of activity for you?
The shallow water market in Asia is finally moving towards, as reserves come short in shallow water, you can see that Malaysia, Indonesia is moving into deep water. And I feel that obviously going forward, China, Vietnam is also moving into deep water. And that will be our main target projects, because deep water is where our heart is finally. And I think we will be able to bring the relevant expertise from around the world back into Asia when the opportunities arises. And most definitely we are looking at current opportunities already in Indonesia and Malaysia in deep water.
What Asian oil companies are you targeting to work with next?
Naturally in Malaysia it will be companies like Petronas and of course Murphy is drilling in deep water, as well as Shell. Chevron is drilling in deep water in Indonesia.
What about the Chinese oil companies?
The Chinese oil companies have not moved in the deep water segment yet. We believe that over the next 3 to 5 year period they are going to move into deep water, and definitely we'll be there to support them.
You recently made headlines in Vietnam when your offshore project Chim Sao hit oil. You have a joint venture where you have a vessel charter being deployed there. What sort of revenue do you hope to rake in from the venture?
That project was a significant project for us as a group, because that project was won in 2008 in the middle of the crisis and was executed in 2010. And we achieved first oil, and I think we have made our clients happy in the process. We have been producing for the last 4-5 months, and I think going forward we will be looking to do more of such projects.
So you've literally hit a gold mine in Vietnam?
It's truly a showcase where we have all our divisions in one place, developing the entire field for our clients.
As you operate in this industry, obviously the oil price is a big factor when it comes to spending on exploration projects. To what extent will companies like Ezra continue to benefit from higher oil prices?
If you look at the spend budget for subsea construction over the next 5 years, industry forecasts it to be in excess of $200 billion. So we definitely think that deepwater subsea construction is going to grow in a huge way, because as you see reserves dwindle in the shallow water region, the only place the oil companies are going to go is deeper and deeper into the oceans to drill for oil and gas. And we see that continuing to happen, whether is it in Brazil, whether is it in West Africa, in the North Sea, or in the Asia Pacific region.
At what level in oil price would it start to hurt your business?
In 2008, when we saw the global financial crisis, and obviously there was a pullback in the oil prices as well, I think the market was extremely concerned, and a question was put forth to Petrobras at that point in time, and they asked them, okay, you are constantly in deep water, and where do you think the oil price is going to be before it becomes not unviable for deep water drilling? And I think the number put across was in the region of between $55 to $60.
So with oil prices at $100 now, you're in a sweet spot?
I think not only are we in a sweet spot, but I think it gives longevity in a lot of the projects that are planned going forward. It pushes a lot of projects to the forefront today because oil prices are high. And I think also as the world shifts from nuclear power into gas-fired power plants as well, that helps in also moving new projects like in Israel, or whether is it in West Africa or in Australia, because as the world's demand for gas moves up, you'll see new development projects going forward in all regions as well.
Up next, we ask 39-year-old Lionel of Ezra Holdings how he commands the respect of his older colleagues. Managing Asia will be right back. Welcome back to Managing Asia. My guest today is Ezra Holdings' Lionel Lee. He was only 29 years old when he took over the helm from his father in 2002. He has since set the company on a new course as a provider of subsea services for offshore oil and gas companies. Shuttling between Singapore, Houston and Oslo, Lionel Lee and top managers like COO Captain Andaresh Kumar and the CEO of subsidiary EMAS AMC CJ DeCourt make sure they run a tight ship. What did you learn from your father about managing ships?
I learned a lot from him managing the people on the vessels, because it was always the people that were bringing the ships alongside, and the people were actually executing the work. So it wasn't really managing a shipping company as a whole, it was managing the people that were running the vessels.
Lee's father, who declined to be filmed, has remained as the chairman of the group. Are you a chip of the old block? How different are you from your father? What do you bring to the table that's different?
I do not think I'm a chip of the old block. My father is somebody who is quick to listen, slow to react. He's always very calm, whereas I am always quick to listen and quick to act. which he has always told me that, look, you should be quick to listen, but take 5 minutes, think for yourself, and look back and see if that's the right reaction you want to react to, instead of reacting so quickly.
How would you describe your leadership and management style today?
Our leadership styles are very similar. We have an open door policy to all our staff, and the difference is I think we have constantly told all our staff that, look, we are open, our doors are open, we're willing to listen. Anything you have on the top of your mind, please come in, please talk to us. The other thing that I think that's common between my father and myself constantly is that he's constantly told me, look, the organization, although we've grown to thousands of people, everybody must be treated like a person and not a digit. Remember that all your life.
Do you think your father is proud of you today?
That's a question that has been asked of him many, many times, and
what's his answer?
And his answer constantly to everyone is that obviously they have said that, oh, you must be extremely proud of Lionel over the last 17 years, what he's done together with you. But he says you only see one side of the coin, you don't see the other side when we are home. So, but I think he feels that we have done well, and I think with his support, and that's where you can see the support that he's given me to lead the organization to where it is today.
When you took over the company 10 years ago, you were only 29 years old. Did you have any trouble commanding the respect of your older colleagues?
I grew up with the business since I was a little boy, so I have met practically every single employee at that point in time since I was a little boy to where I was at 29. They have seen me go through every single process, and that's where I think I've won their respect. I think most importantly, the element of trust with each other, that we can trust each other to execute and deliver the projects, and we know very well that who is able to execute and deliver the projects. I think that's extremely important.
And finally, your father founded a company. As his son, do you think you managed to carve out a sustainable path for the company? Have you made your own mark?
Today, we've transformed the organization from a vessel provider into an organization that's able to do engineering, project management, coupled with our assets with the vessels to execute deepwater subsea construction projects offshore. I think this has enabled us to sustain our growth over the next decade to come. I think this is something that I've been able to change the organization from a very marine and asset concentrated organization into a project management company.
What would you like to achieve next? What's your next big milestone?
I think we have grown over the last decade globally. I will continue to want to grow our marine assets globally as we seek to also have fabrication yards in the Americas. I think that's something that we are looking at right now. But we also have to manage our portfolio extremely well. We have to manage all the risks that's involved today as well in executing our projects. So my next biggest growth area will be to increase our construction capability and execution capability in West Africa, as well as the Asia-Pac region. Because when we acquired AMC, Asia-Pac was actually the most infant compared to the Americas or the North Sea and West Africa. So our main focus will be in the Asia-Pac region, where we will constantly want to grow our subsea construction business.
And I've been speaking with Lionel, Managing Director of Singapore-listed Ezra Holdings. Hope you've enjoyed the program. Join us again next week for more on the challenges of managing Asia. I'm Christine Tan. Thanks for watching.